Transformation, Fire in the Forest, Reflections on the Rebirth of Big Basin. Donna Thomas, Santa Cruz, California, 2023. 3 years after the catastrophic 2020 CZU Lightning Complex fire, I went to Big Basin Redwoods State Park as an invited artist in the project called Big Basin Art About. Over 2 days, along with 15 other artists, I hiked through the burned forest, listened as the park rangers and naturalists told us of their experiences. Some of their homes were incinerated in the fire. They saw that over 97% of the park burned, and all were overwhelmed by the loss of the Big Basin forest as they knew it. The artists and I experienced the deep sadness of seeing heavily scarred giant redwoods and grieved the loss of historic structures. We sighed with relief seeing the bright green regrowth everywhere, including an abundance of wildflowers in the newly opened canopy. This is a collection of our thoughts, with my illustrations showing the state of the forest as it goes through a transformation like it never has before. It hasn't been easy to express our feelings. Here is a glimpse of our impressions at this moment in this beloved place.
Heartbroken at the news of majestic and beautiful Big Basin burning, I braced myself for the worst when first seeing it after the fire. The sky was overcast and the air was cold. The park felt subdued and somber. Driving into the park, I felt overwhelmed by the destruction. Blackened trees and the litter of dead branches out to infinity. Walking along the only open trail, I looked closer and saw an exuberance of green sprouts from blackened redwood trunks, from burned tan oak stumps, from ash-covered ground. Grief and overwhelm turned to hope and excitement. Reflecting on the centuries of time it took to create the ecosystem that was a lush forest, I'm filled with anticipation about the new forest that will emerge from this severe wildfire. Although the reforestation may not happen in my lifetime, I can't wait to see how the plant and animal life return in the coming decades.
Recent mornings spent in the park have been highlighted by bird song and sightings. I'm reminded that life goes on. The park is not dead. It continues to fill up with life and will continue to as the forest regenerates. Pioneer species have been doing this long before human pioneers touched this land.
Spark. Measurement of time passes through the flames and the moonlight. The redwoods, flowers, dirt, fire, and all the living echoes an opera of loss and resilience, creating an awareness of our size within a micro-macro dance. Between the roots and the stars, we can reimagine. A spark that brings us to an immeasurable moment for the eyes, and to be blessed for the grounds and all its offerings.
When I first saw the forest after the burn, my first impression as our group arrived at the forest was surprise at how the new growth on the trees began directly from the trunks. I had expected that it would grow from the tips of the branches. Seeing that growth made me think of little children bundled into their puffy snow clothes.
I approached the Big Basin State Park under a gloomy cloud of my own creation, thinking I would be swamped in a storm of heavy D words like devastation, disaster, and destruction. The big surprise for me turned out to be the other side of that real and undeniably sad story. I found myself surrounded by health. Almost all of the blackened redwood trunks are now bristling with stubby new branches and putting out rings of vigorous new clones around their roots. The abundance of wildflowers on the newly sunlit slopes is almost overwhelming, and there are multiple species of birds going about their noisy business, obviously finding what they need to sustain themselves in this regrowing forest. Going to sleep and waking up to their songs lifted my heart. The other aspect that surprised and inspired me was the sense of human opportunity laid open in the wake of the fire. Nothing in Big Basin is as it was, so now we get to ponder what we want for the future of this park and others like it. We always assumed we knew who the park belonged to and how we wanted to enjoy it, but even those basic understandings are now laid open for deep thought. Who exactly is that hugely important we? Is there a way for a greater diversity of people to enjoy a lighter and more respectful presence in the park as it is reopened for use? How can a more inclusive we come together to start the discussion and create a new vision?
Feel the water moving up and down the madrone tree, staying cool. Beauty more than skin deep. Broad shiny leaves nursing violas in shade. Some trees are wearing metal toe tags like the deceased. Ash becomes nourishment. Wait, watch for regrowth. Carry on your best, Yerba Santa. This is your year for blooming. Carry on, fairy lantern, the light is yours. Carry on, Ceanothus, your scent is a treat. Carry on, you people, while you struggle with your past. Carry on, visionaries, no sadness holds you back. The forest is now charred redwood bark and huckleberries. California sisters butterflies on 3-year madrone sprouts. Banana slugs on copper-colored duff. Yesterday's grief transformed to verdant joy.
When I came alone to the forest, I just started hiking up the trails without a plan. I came to a fork in the trail and debated with myself which path to follow. I had no agenda, I just wanted to be immersed in the moment and draw. That's when I saw a banana slug, almost literally pointing up the left path like a little yellow arrow. It was a perfect hike. I should know the name of the trail, and I forgot already. It was the Slugway.
Pilgrimage. When my grandpa died, his neighbors got together and paid for a memorial redwood tree in Big Basin Redwood State Park. I was surprised because I don't remember Grandpa being especially a nature-loving person. He worked outside, though, doing large engineering projects like bridges, satellite tracking stations, and skyscrapers the world over. My mom told me that the neighbors knew that our family loved to visit wild places like Yosemite and Point Reyes, so why not go to a beautiful redwood forest nearby to remember Grandpa? Who knows, maybe they also liked the idea of an occasional walk in Big Basin. So I went and visited his tree. It's an old-growth Sequoia sempervirens, about 10 feet in diameter, so perhaps old enough to be growing before the colonialists arrived, located near a former developed picnic area. At the base of the copper-colored trunk was a little marker, identifying it by his nickname, the Van Tree. I brought my mom, her sisters, and brother to the tree for their first time a few years ago, over 30 years after his passing. My impression of the visit was that they enjoyed the camaraderie of family time as well as the pleasure of being in the presence of a stately tree dedicated to their dad. After this, every time I hiked in Big Basin, I would find his tree, look up, and circle around it. I thanked the neighbors for giving me the excuse for the pilgrimage, and I remembered Grandpa with his jovial laugh and his love for our family. When I found the tree after the 2020 CZU lightning complex fire, I dug around its base to locate the Van Tree tag. It must have disappeared in the fire because I saw where the usual deep layer of duff around the base of the tree was reduced to ash. A goose pen was newly exposed, and old cans and bottles, remnants of picnics from long ago, enjoyed by families not my own, were revealed in a tumbled, burned heap. I smiled, thinking about the ability of this tree to bring together memories of my grandpa, evidence of gatherings of past revelers, as well as an awareness of cultures before mine, watching this forest grow.
Ancient forest, a mother tree, indigenous stories held in seed memory, hidden in the seed bank. A season of change, dense fuel loads, layered dry duff. Dry lightning storm, widespread wildfires, hot, hot heat exclaims. The landscape covered in ash, hearts in grief. Seeds emerge after fire, knobcone pine, ceanothus, and fire-resistant redwood sprouting again. Seeds contained in soil like a constellation. Change, transformation, renewal, healing, rebirth. Soothing rain, the sound of opal waters. Serotonin, a story unfolding over deep time. Indigenous wisdom has always been essential. This time remembered, etched with respect for sacred sovereign knowledge into the collective's way of being. A future now promised.
Colophon. The paper used in this artist book is handmade from cotton and linen rags by Peter Thomas. The gray paper is tinted with carbon from the 2020 CZU lightning fire, collected from Peter's mother's property in Ben Lomond. A big thank you goes to the contributing artists from the Big Basin Artabout project: Laura Fogg, Linda Gass, Tucker Gorman, Melody Overstreet, Cynthia Siegel, Chris Seacat, Tina Summers. I painted the watercolor illustrations on site in Big Basin in 2023. The frontispiece is Sequoia sempervirens, salvaged from a house being torn down in my neighborhood in Santa Cruz, carved by myself, Donna Thomas.